When people think of leaders, they often draw from traditional sources. World leaders, presidents, athletes. But what if one of America's most influential leaders, at least for several generations of kids, was a 143-pound man known for his sweaters, who played with puppets in the neighborhood of make-believe? There is no need to make believe when it comes to Fred Rogers, better known as Mr. Rogers, and his leadership qualities and influence over so many. For there to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood, there also has to be leadership in the neighborhood, and we get an up-close look at Fred Rogers' leadership capabilities in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Of course, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is not solely about Fred Rogers. The movie focuses on both Rogers and journalist Lloyd Vogel of Esquire, who is a hard-hitting, serious investigative reporter assigned to write a 400-word article on America's nicest man himself, Mr. Rogers. The duality of the two men is the initial focus of Rogers and Vogel's interactions. However, as their relationship forms, Vogel begins a journey toward more than just writing a short article. Though his focus was to be Rogers' life, the majority of this movie shows Vogel's introspective look at his own life and the healing process he takes in dealing with a troubled relationship with his father. As Jerry Vogel, his father, inches closer to death, the two men give new life to their bond. Of course, none of this could have happened without Fred Rogers, which is where we will start our further dive into the movie. Fred Rogers is a kind and caring man. He features many leadership attributes discussed in our readings. He is approachable, thoughtful, likable, a good listener, and passionate. Perhaps Rogers' greatest strength when it comes to leadership is his emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be defined as the ability to perceive and express emotions, to use emotions to facilitate thinking, to understand and reason with emotions, and to effectively manage emotions within oneself and in relationships with others. Fred Rogers is a people person through and through, and his ability to handle his own emotions and the emotions of others is extremely evident through his popularity. He is not only able to display emotional intelligence on his own level with other adults, but he is also able to go to the level of children to discuss the emotions they may be feeling and help them understand and think about those emotions. In A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, his emotional intelligence is shown in a variety of scenes, but is especially evident in his interactions with Lloyd Vogel. Lloyd Vogel can be defined as a leader through the transactional leadership style, which focuses on the exchange that occurs between leaders and their followers. As a writer for Esquire, Vogel's main goal is to put out an article that packs new information with a way to expose the subject of the article. This is shown through the interaction between Lloyd and his editor when she states that people love talking to Lloyd until they read what he has written about them. Lloyd sees personal relationships as a transaction. He is given information, and Lloyd provides the writing. Lloyd's way of writing is colored by his past, though he does not necessarily realize it. His slightly negative, stick-to-the-facts style of writing is challenged by writing about Fred Rogers, whose reputation is as clean as dishes freshly run through the dishwasher. It ultimately serves as the opportunity for Lloyd to find his why. In the book Finding Your Why, Simon Sinek introduces the journey to discover why like this. We all know what we do. Some of us know how we do it, but very few of us can clearly articulate why we do what we do. Lloyd Vogel writes, he does it by interviewing others and forming a narrative. Why does he write in the tone that he does? Why does he approach articles in the way that he does? This is where Lloyd is challenged in the movie. After receiving his assignment to write about Fred Rogers, Lloyd Vogel calls to set up an interview with Fred Rogers. Rogers returns his call and the two men talk on the phone. After a brief discussion, Rogers asks Lloyd if he knows what the most important thing is to him at the moment. Lloyd responds in the negative, and that's when Fred Rogers says this. The most important thing right now is talking to Lloyd Vogel. This is a strong example of the behavioral approach in leadership. Rogers is present in the moment and focusing on what he is doing at that exact time. By focusing his attention on Lloyd and letting him know of his importance, Rogers begins to build camaraderie, respect, and trust. He helps Lloyd to feel comfortable and at ease when talking on the phone and later while meeting with Rogers. If their initial conversation were a PowerPoint slide, it might look like this. All the focus is on Lloyd Vogel. Scene 2. Lloyd is on set when another important scene occurs. Fred Rogers is filming for his show and attempting to set up a tent. He awkwardly struggles to set the tent up before admitting he cannot do it. He tells the children that it may take 2 adults to set up a tent. As he watches himself back on film, he approves the footage of him unable to set up the tent. Later, Lloyd asks Mr. Rogers why he did not have them rig the tent so he could set it up. Here, Fred Rogers imparts an important lesson. Children need to know that when adults make plans, they don't always work out the way we want. We can look to the trait approach theory of leadership here, as Rogers displays valuable traits of what it means to be a leader. Rogers shows a high level of integrity through his willingness to be completely honest with children. Rather than stage it for show, Rogers shows the reality of the situation, holds true to his principles, and takes responsibility for his actions, even when they're on camera. In New York, Fred Rogers is greeting fans while his wife, Joanne, and Lloyd are off to the side. Lloyd turns to Joanne and asks how it feels to be married to a saint. Joanne dismisses the term and replies with this. You know, he works at it all the time. It's a practice. He's not a perfect person. He has a temper. He chooses how he responds to that anger. Lloyd then offers a comment, and Joanne continues by saying, he does things every day that help to ground him. Reads scripture, swims laps, prays for people by name, writes letters, hundreds of them. While this scene does not directly show the leadership occurring, it is a perfect example of the 5 personality factors that indicate a leader. More specifically, it highlights Rogers' conscientiousness, or the tendency to be thorough, organized, controlled, dependable, and decisive. Mr. Rogers has a strict way of living that is grounded in organization, dependability, and thoroughness. Just his daily routine alone shows the same skills he applies to leadership in other avenues. As Fred Rogers and Lloyd Vogel sit and eat lunch, Fred asks Lloyd for a minute of silence by saying, just take a minute and think about all the people who loved us into being. After Lloyd expresses doubt, Fred tells him not to worry and that it will come to him. The dining area goes silent, and we see the fourth wall broken between the viewer and the actors, as we, too, participate in the opportunity to think of those who loved us into being. However, for Lloyd, this act is especially important on his journey to find why. Chapter 3 of Finding Why cites some of the best questions to ask for finding your why. Ask open-ended questions and avoid questions that start with why. Fred Rogers does that here by simply asking Lloyd to think about those who he appreciates in his life. Mr. Rogers also sits in silence with both Lloyd and the audience, which allows for further thinking opportunity and a chance for clarity. As Jack Vogel dies at home, Fred Rogers comes to visit with the family. They chit-chat somewhat uncomfortably, as it's clear there is one topic being avoided. Mr. Rogers notices and addresses the room. To die is to be human, and anything human is mentionable. Anything mentionable is manageable. Here, Rogers again displays a high level of emotional intelligence by encouraging the others to understand their emotion, express their emotion, and use those emotions to facilitate conversation and thought. He also is participating in supportive behaviors as a leader, assisting members via two-way communication and feeling comfortable in the situation they are in. The final scene of value comes from the very end of the movie. After filming, Mr. Rogers is at his piano alone. He plays for a bit, then suddenly hits all the lowest keys at the same time for several sequences. Rogers references this to Lloyd in a previous part of the movie as a way to express anger and eliminate frustration. At the beginning of the movie, Mr. Rogers asks us, what do we do with the mad that we feel? For Mr. Rogers, he shows that he takes his own advice and takes the mad and frustration that he feels and lets it out while playing the piano. Here, he exhibits specific traits from the trait leadership theory. Rogers has a readiness to absorb interpersonal stress and a willingness to tolerate frustration and delay. Though he gives off a saintly vibe, he is human too. He absorbs his stresses and frustrations and expresses them in a healthy, safe way. If we take a wider, broader approach to the leadership items explored in the movie, there are several key items that are seen throughout the movie. The first, as we have mentioned, is emotional intelligence. Rogers displays a high level throughout the movie, while Lloyd Vogel slowly matures and becomes more emotionally intelligent. The second big item explored throughout the movie is the 3-skill approach. We see how important the 3-skill approach is through the eyes of both Rogers and Vogel. Rogers, obviously, shows mastery in all 3 aspects. He knows how to produce a successful television show, works well with others, and can deal with concepts. Vogel holds 2 of the 3, but we see how the missing human skill in Lloyd Vogel affects him as a leader and how he appears in public. We touched on that topic earlier, but it's evident throughout the movie that Vogel's human skill, while professionally profound, is lacking on a personal level. Finally, supportive leadership is a key element of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Supportive leadership consists of being friendly and approachable as a leader and includes attending to the well-being and human needs of followers. Supportive leaders go out of their way to make things pleasant for followers. Throughout the movie, Rogers goes to great lengths to show Vogel generosity and kindness, and it is a value that can be applied within all aspects of leadership. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood gives us a beautiful look at leadership and leadership qualities, specifically when it comes to engaging with others and considering the human element within leadership. Seeing the evolution of Lloyd Vogel through this movie, coupled with Fred Rogers' compassion and guidance along the way, was a very rewarding experience. What I plan to take from Mr. Rogers and his journey with Lloyd Vogel includes the power of silence, active listening, being more conscientious, participating in supportive behaviors, and improving my emotional intelligence. By taking these traits, it can be a beautiful day for me and those I lead, no matter which neighborhood I'm in. Thank you.